Well, welcome everybody. We're here for our mid-year town hall meeting. And if you weren't on the screen as we were getting everybody in, just if you have questions or anything you'd like us to hit on, please throw it in the chat box. And Jen Jones is going to be kind of monitoring that during the actual discussion. And if there's an opportune time to point my attention to it, she'll make sure I address it in the mix of the content. If not, we'll come back at the end and grab any of the questions in the chat box. So just to really start off with, so great to be with you here, Kevin. Who can hardly believe we're already halfway through the year, a little over halfway through the year, and just amazing how time is flying here in 2022. And just wanted to spend some time with you, share a few things. And the biggest thing, if you haven't heard already, is that yesterday we welcomed Brownstone Real Estate to the Homesale family. Had a great announcement session yesterday. They're doing a watch party there in the Hershey office and the Lebanon offices of our two newest Homesale offices. They'll be operating as Brownstone for another week, and then as of the 20th, all of their materials will switch over and be fully branded to Homesale. So we're really excited to welcome Todd Leitner and Scott Campbell, the owners of Brownstone, and their wonderful 7 employees from the Brownstone Real Estate Company and Intercounty Land Transfer, and then 38 great new agents. This is a company that Homesale, myself, my partners, our board members, we've admired for a really long time. I got so many messages yesterday about the excitement about Brownstone becoming a part of Homesale, from people who have retired and moved to Florida, to ex-partners, to business people around central Pennsylvania. This was just a really, really natural cultural fit for us. Two great companies with very, very similar cultures, and we're just so excited to welcome them to Homesale. Going to go over a few things here with you today. One is just kind of an overview of where we see the market as we sit here in July of 2022. Some observations from around the country from my participation in the Berkshire Elite meeting back in June. Going to talk a little bit about that R word. I'm sure if you're reading any financial news, if you're paying attention to any talking heads on the radio or on television, you've probably heard the word recession in the last few weeks or months around inflation and interest rates and Fed policy. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to talk about what it means for the real estate market and what it means for, in particular, us here at Homesale in central Pennsylvania and in the greater Baltimore and Maryland areas. We're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing to get ready for that changing environment. And then I'm going to give you some thoughts on some of the things that you can do to get ready and be prepared for a changing market as well. So with that, jumping right into a market update, so rates have obviously increased, right? So we've gone from below 3% in the middle of last year to mid 6s at some points this year, and now pulling back into the 5s. And those of us who have been in the industry for a long time, we're like, okay, these are still great rates on a historical basis, but it's a pretty big rapid change. And I think that's something that has really been a point of difference between this year and last year. That, along with the inflationary pressures and the increases in cost of housing, that's really starting to get us to think about this concept of advising people to marry the house but date your interest rate. So in the United States, we have this great 30-year mortgage program. All of those are, at least most of our mortgage programs, don't have prepayment penalties. So one of the wonderful things about purchasing a home with a traditional mortgage in the United States is that we always have the option that if interest rates get better, we can refinance into a lower rate. So, just think about this for a second. If you can get the right house today, if interest rates go up because the Fed continues to have to control inflation, well, you've fixed your housing cost and you've set that for the future. And if rates go down, you can always float down with the rate market. There's very, very few asset classes, almost no lending, any kind of commercial loan that you would do, any kind of fixed rate, if we buy buildings or offices or commercial projects, if we want to float with the market, we have to either take a variable rate or we have to pay a prepayment penalty if we pair out of a fixed rate. So it's this great opportunity. And this, I'm sure you guys have seen this on social media. We certainly didn't make it up. We saw it out there on a lot of social media, and it just really kind of hit home on marry the house and date the rate and why that works in the United States. Where are we in the market? So closed units are off 15% year over year, and volume is off 7.1%. So certainly lack of inventory, increased rates, increased inflationary pressure has put some pressure on the ability to get deals done. We still have a mismatch though in supply and demand. We are still at just over a month of inventory across our 15 county footprint. And the old adage was 6 months is balance. Some people say 4 to 6 months. I think it's closer to 4 in today's world. I think that 6 month adage was back when it took 60 to 75 days to get a mortgage approval, underwritten and appraised. Today with technology and faster response times, then I think 4 months is more of a reasonable amount of inventory to create a balanced market. But it's been years since we've seen even 2 months of inventory. So we're still in this mismatch. We're still seeing competitive offers out there. We're still seeing multiple offer environments, but homes that last year might have had 15 offers and 25 showings the first day it was on the market, now maybe you're competing as 2 or 3 or 4. So great opportunity to go back to those folks who got tired last year and say, yeah, interest rates are up, but now you're competing against less houses. So we can get you into a home for list price or maybe even below list price. We can maybe get you a contract accepted that has an inspection contingency in it. We can get you a contract that has an appraisal contingency in it. So, the buying power is, the negotiating power is shifting, and we're starting to see that. The other thing we're hearing a lot about is overpriced homes are being punished by the market. So if the seller is overreaching, they're thinking, oh, I want last year's 20% gain and I want next year's 10% gain and I want it now. They're going to get punished by the market and probably have to face the conversation around price reductions and the questions of, well, what's wrong with the house because it's set on the market for 2 or 3 weeks and then had a price reduction. So just keep all that in mind when you're on both sides of the transaction of what's going on today in the marketplace. As we talk about that, though, one of the things I want us as professionals to be really careful about is that we don't lead the witness. So we've got so much experience, data, information, and we've seen this rapid change from what things were like a year ago to what things are like now. But not all of your consumers have. They might not have been in the market last year. So inform them, and I'm not saying be dishonest or deceptive. I'm just saying don't let our biases of what has changed inadvertently influence somebody not to make a great decision today. Their decision might be based on my rent's gone up 25% in the last 2 years. Their decision might be based on I'm having another baby and this 3-bedroom won't work. I need an extra bedroom. Their decisions might be based on things completely outside of what we've experienced over the last 12 months in the change in the interest rate and housing market. So don't let our kind of scar tissue from the last 12 months impact negatively people's decisions around their housing. Be their trusted advisor. Share with them freely the information they need, but don't let our biases, discourage or prevent them from transacting. I certainly think the folks who thought last year, well, I'm going to wait and prices are going to go down, are probably disappointed that they waited. That prices not only did not go down, interest rates have also gone up tremendously. So the monthly payment on that home that they were looking at has probably gone up substantially if they were quote unquote waiting to save money. So keep the focus on what's right for them as a family, what's right for their current housing situation, what's right in their situation, and try not to let our experiences adversely taint their perception. And one of the benefits of being part of a network like Berkshire Hathaway is we get to see what's going on around the country. So just last month, attended the Berkshire Elite meeting. So this is attended by the leaders of the top 50 franchises across the country, both the independently owned ones like Homesale, as well as the company-owned franchises around the country. Great group of real estate leaders, some really, really astute minds and great people. I get to learn from them on a regular basis and never come away disappointed with the time I spend there. What we're seeing around the country is, and I think Jen's pausing because I didn't cover all my points on Don't Lead the Witness. Let me come back to around the country. So in spite of all the changes we're seeing, 15% down, 7% down in volume, Schuylkill Haven, Ephrata, Centerville, Timonium, Canton, Bel Air, North Hanover, Harrisburg, East York, Dallastown, and Camp Hill are all up year over year in closed volume compared from 2022 year to date to the same period in 2021. And guys, guess what? Even down that much, it's our second best year ever. So this literally goes into Don't Lead the Witness. The change has been dramatic, but it's still an amazing real estate market relative to historic norms. So absolutely make sure that we don't let our, oh my God, things have changed so fast, get in the way of doing good business. Thanks, Jen. So Elite Circle.
It's really important that they heard that.
Yeah, I know. I got ahead of myself. I'm sorry. So Elite Circle, like I was saying, great opportunity to hear what's going on around the country. And here's what we heard. We heard clearly some of the things I shared with you were, competitive offers where there were 15 to 20. Now we're talking 2 or 3. Opportunity for buyers who got burnt out last year to come back and take another look. Opportunity to make sure we're pricing and setting the right expectations with sellers and not overpricing. The coastal communities into, basically from, Pennsylvania east and from the Rocky Mountains and west, so the coast, are experiencing what we're experiencing, 15, 20% down in volume, in units, single digits down in volume because sales prices are still rising because of the mismatch in inventory. The middle part of the country, they're actually up year over year, but their pending data, the written business data, is starting to show that things are changing for them as well. So we're just leading, and they'll be coming in behind us. I'm sure their second half will slow down as well. So one of the phrases when we were talking about what was going on in the country that one of the participants used, and my Game of Thrones fans are gonna get this immediately, was "winter is coming." And that was a reference to that things are changing, and the Game of Thrones people will totally understand it. For those that don't, it's just basically a reference that, hey, things are starting to change, and the market is changing. And the question is, in my mind, is it a super cold winter, or is it last winter, which was the Great Recession? Or is this something milder? And I think as we walk through some key key things here, you'll see why I believe that it's pretty mild, especially when you talk about real estate, and what's coming for real estate with just some of the underpinnings of the market. So when we look at even just like the predictions on recessions, this is a group of economists and their responses on when they think a recession will occur. There's still almost 17% think it's 2025 or after, which is amazing to me, because I'm kind of in the late this year, early next year camp myself. I just don't think the Fed can both control inflation where we are and not kind of drive at least a mild recession. And remember, we've talked about before, what does that term actually mean? It means that GDP decreases for 2 consecutive quarters. It doesn't mean that housing prices drop 15 or 20%. It doesn't mean that we cut our transactions in half. Some recessions that we've experienced in housing, you barely noticed it as a housing person. Other recessions, like the stagflation recession of 1982 and the Great Recession of 2008, we absolutely saw it as an industry. So, not all recessions are created equal when in any state, in any part of the economy, but certainly in housing, not all recessions are created equally. So, I think one of the things that if you're working with buyers out there, or even working with sellers about, is it the right time? Should I, be selling now or not? I think one of the great fears is, will there be a collapse in pricing? So what would cause a collapse in pricing? What did we see in 08 and 09 that caused a collapse in the real estate prices? And what that was a mismatch in supply and demand the other way. So recessionary pressure, people pulling back and not spending as much, people losing jobs, that caused a decrease in demand. And then because of the loose lending standards of the early 2000s, we had this amazing surge of supply called foreclosures and short sales. And when you look at what was different now to what was going on then, you can see it very clearly. So, in 2010, 2 years after the drop, in the real drop in the recession. So this is after some normalization and some reckoning. The average first lien credit score was 699. Today it's 751. Adjustable rate mortgages. In 2007, there were 13.1 million adjustable rate mortgages in the United States. Today, on a much larger population base, only 2.5 million adjustable rate mortgages out there. Those ARMs that were facing an imminent rate increase in 2007, 10 million of them were facing rate increases. And oh, by the way, back in those days, you didn't qualify on the fully indexed rate. You qualified on normally the first increase, or maybe the first 2 increases, depending on how often it adjusted. But today, almost all ARMs, you qualify on the fully indexed rate, meaning that regardless of what the future increases, you would still have the funds, the earnings to pay the mortgage. Only 1.4 million facing an increase. So equity in 2008, 1 in 4 were underwater, meaning they owed more on their house than their house was worth. Today, less than 2.5% of our homeowners have less than 10% equity. Some of that's higher underwriting standards. Some of that is just the increase in prices that have created home equity. But working together, 97.5% of people have more than 10% of equity in their home. And then home ownership rate then was 69%, today it's 65.4. So, leading up to that housing bubble and burst was a massive effort to drive home ownership rate as high as possible. It was purposeful, it was driven, and it was well intended because of all the positives that we know that home ownership brings as far as wealth creation, stability, neighborhood cohesion, all those types of things that are positive of home ownership. There was a national effort to drive it as high as possible. And part of that was the loose lending standards, and the resulting housing crisis was the result of it. We don't have that backdrop today. We have a run up in prices that's driven by, we've underbuilt houses for a decade. And oh, by the way, the largest population in the history of the United States is entering their prime home buying, first time home buying years. So we have a demographic trend. And you've seen me share this chart before, which is, right now, our 34-year-olds, 33-year-olds are higher than they have been over the last few years, but they're still projected to there's still a wave of more first-time home buyers that should be coming based on demographics. So even if prices start to flutter a little bit, I think this driving force of more folks who are trying to get out of ever increasing rents and get into a home is going to help stabilize prices. If you look back 10 or 12 years ago, you had the opposite impact. You had a population that was actually decreasing every year on the number of people who were turning 34, because that was the Gen X period where we were the smallest generation of the three. So that's underpinning and supporting the market as well. And then, that's driving, this is a Zillow survey of 114 housing experts. And the blue line there, the light blue line, royal blue line, is kind of the average growth over the last I don't know what that pre-bubble trend, through 2000. So that's the annual growth rate. And then where that annual growth rate would have had average home values go. The black line is actually the home values, the actual home values. And you can see we're now above the trend line. But our experts are saying, the most pessimistic panelists are saying we stay above trend line, and the most optimistic are saying we kind of stay on this trajectory based on the demographics that we're on. But no one was really projecting a collapse like we saw there. You can see it in 08, 09, 10, 11, before we return to trend line in the like the 18, 19 timeframe. So that's what leads me to believe that yes, we will face a recession, but it won't look like the last one. It won't be the devastating 47% drop in revenue that we faced between June of 06 and like November of 2009, when we had to really tighten our belts, both as a company and as individuals, to make it through that downturn in the market. So yeah, recession, I believe sometime late this year, early next year, if the Fed's really skilled and maybe can push it out a little bit. I don't think they will be able to, engineer a complete soft landing. I do think we have to go through a mild recession to get the other side, but I don't believe it will cause, because of all the demographics and the underpinnings, will cause a dramatic change in house prices. So just some information for you to have in the back of your mind when you're talking to nervous buyers or sellers who are trying to figure out when they should sell. So one of the things that quote that's really famous is the chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, the big Berkshire Hathaway, the parent company, Warren Buffett, and he's talking about recessions and downturns in markets. And he says, only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked, or in South Alabama, naked. So we've seen some of this already. We've seen companies that are venture capital backed, that are publicly traded, that have large amounts of debt, that are or in the mortgage industry and highly reliant on refinance business. Some have gone out of business. Some have made massive cuts in their staffing. There's a lot of disruption going on for those companies that had high debt loads. They were backed by venture capital, or they're in a publicly traded scenario and don't have the patience of a privately held company like ours to, we think in decades long cycles, not in quarter long cycles. So I don't really care what this quarter is compared to next quarter. I care what 10 years from now looks like. I care about the people that we're impacting on a day-to-day basis. I care about taking your career to the next level, to helping you find work-life balance, to helping you find a path to your retirement. Those are the things we focus on, not necessarily on what the stock price is at the end of the quarter, because that drives my stock options that I'm getting bonused on. So that's just a whole different mindset around the way a privately held company like ours can run versus some of these venture-backed companies that are out there, that, in all honesty, have probably been swimming a little naked. So what do we do so that we don't get caught with our pants around our ankles when the tide keeps going out, right? Like we want to make sure that we're ready as the tide is shifting. And so things that we're doing as a company start with really starting to focus on what training will our team need and when will they need it. As we went back and looked at those slides, prices have been going up consistently for a good decade now. It's been a long time since most of us have had, if we've ever had, a price reduction conversation with our listing. It's been a long time since we've had a listing expire because we weren't able to sell it. It's been a long time that we've had to service a listing for 3, 4, 5 months. It's been a long time since we talked about how you structure deals with seller help, and with not making sure you don't get too much seller help and mess up the mortgage contingencies. It's been a long time since we've talked about a 3-2-1 buy down and or an adjustable rate mortgage or. So these are all things that we want to that we're already starting to develop content for, and we will be ready when the timing is right. Having price reduction conversations may be starting to get right, but we still aren't seeing a lot of price reductions just yet. But we think in the fall it'll start to be time to have those expert panels on some of these topics, have some training sessions, get some of our seasoned veterans who've been through the cycle before to bring some of those lessons of wisdom to bear for the team. So that's stuff that we're working on. In addition to that, we launched our August month, our premier listing packages are launching, and then there's upgrade options for silver and gold if you want to do additional marketing. We're really taking some of the stuff that we've had and that you could have done on your own, and basically doing it for you so that you get the benefit of the tools and the underlying technology, and we deliver it to you as a service instead of as a tool. And then we want to be able to help you verbalize how that helps your clients at the listing table and when you're having a buyer consult. And then if you haven't already started, the close rollout is huge. Very, very powerful CRM. It takes some, you have to get it set up right. But once you get it set up right, it runs on autopilot and tells you, I mean, it's amazing the reminders I get. I'll get a reminder that's, its AI is reading the email and is saying, hey, you owed, you have a deadline for this, and it'll pop the email back up and share with me that I have a deadline. It'll tell me, hey, you haven't talked to this person in 2 months. It's time to reach back out based on your normal cadence of communication. So really, really powerful tool. Make sure that you take the time, you get it set up. It's absolutely worth the time. The folks that work in it every day are just raving about it. And it's just really powerful. I can't stress enough that you should be paying attention to those opportunities. And then just a few things that you should be thinking about as we think about this coming recession. Our chairman, Pete Slough, says it, The way he says it is never waste a good recession. I've been listening to some of Brian Buffini's podcast, and he's kind of in the same. He's thinking late 2023 is his mindset. I'm a little more like I'm thinking a little earlier. In fact, I think the earlier it happens, the less severe it'll be. The longer it gets pushed out, it might mean it gets a little more severe. But he's thinking late 2023, and the good news of that is that we believe that you have some time to get prepared. But his way of saying it is a recession is a terrible thing to waste. It's a take on the old a mind is a terrible thing to waste. So what do those guys mean about that? What do they mean a recession is a terrible thing to waste? It's an opportunity to absolutely drive discipline. The hard decisions that when times are good and you don't really aren't thinking about it as much, it's really easy to waste resources in those environments, whether that's your time, whether that's your marketing spend, whether that's your tech dollars you're spending. Those are times when it's easier for you to lack that discipline. So as you think about preparing yourself for the winter, hopefully a mild one, what I want you to think about is start with evaluate your business expenses. Take a look at what you're doing. Are you getting an appropriate return on that investment? If you're not getting a return on that investment, you eliminate that particular piece of it. If you're getting a great return on your investment, take some of the funds you saved and invest it in the thing that's giving you the great return. Second, use those savings to start to build your own reserves. As I mentioned, I've been listening to a lot of Brian's stuff over the last few weeks. I've been traveling a little more than I have been since pre-pandemic, and he recommends three months of your business expenses in a savings account, and then 6 months of your personal expenses. That gives you some kind of benchmark. Those numbers probably sound pretty scary to most of us right now, because we're like, I just kind of manage what comes in, what goes out, and things work. But try to start to build those reserves for two reasons. Reason number one, it will give you the resources to do things in a recessionary environment that other people can't do. If you have those savings when opportunity presents, you'll be able to make investments that other people won't. Second, it will bridge the gap if you do have a slow period in your business. And that's critically important as independent business owners, that we plan for those winter months. To use the keep coming back to the Game of Thrones. We want to make sure that we're ready for the winter. And that's one of the things that I hope you take away today is you've got time, but it's time to start getting ready. And at the same time, we want to stay optimistic and upbeat, because the future of our industry is really, really strong. It's just the next, we got to get through this little period of adjustment as we start to see supply and demand equalize a little more. Again, second best first half we've ever had in the company. The only reason it feels, if you're going 1,000,000 miles an hour and then you slow down to 1,000 feels slow. So, it's really, we're still moving pretty quickly. It's slower than we were moving. So just keep that in mind. Stay positive. Always work on your mindset. We work in an industry and in a place where we control our income, we control our future, we control everything about our business, and 99% of that control is in the 6 inches between your ears. And make sure you stay positive and motivated and work on your mindset. Put something good in the brain cavity every single day. And with that, Jen, I don't know if we have any questions in the chat or anything going on.
No, we don't have anything in the chat box, but if you guys just haven't had a chance to put anything in there, we can pause and give you a second if you have any questions.
All right.
Okay. I don't see anything. But it's
All
great
right,
to see
everybody.
everybody on screen.
Yeah, it was terrific to see you guys. 156 at least what I show right now, and I know there's a lot of watch parties out there too because I can see them. So great to see everybody, and I hope to see you in person very, very soon. And enjoy the rest of your summer, and get your preparations, and let's not only survive the winter, let's thrive through it, because your competitors won't be disciplined enough to do the things that will make them successful, and you will be on the other side of this thing going, oh my God, I'm making more money than I ever thought I could, because half your competition is going to just go away because they won't prepare. Thanks, guys.